Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Demetrius, one of the calendar's astrologers. This is part of our music series, and it's the short ones we're trying to do because this is, as we wrap up the series, to look at particular features that are common in different musicians. And this one's interesting. This is Sting, whose original name was Gordon Sumner. Very popular musician, born October 2nd, 1951 at 1:30 a.m. in Wallsend, UK. He's born with Leo rising. He's born with the sun in Libra. He's born the moon in Libra as well. And one of the things you find in musicians a lot is very strong Libra, and he's the poster boy for this, right? He's got Saturn, the sun, Neptune, and the moon in Libra between 5 degrees and 19 degrees in the third house. The third house is writing. And he, of course, is a composer. It's one thing to be a musician. It's another thing to be a composer. Okay? He has Leo rising. So it's a position that really benefits people who have to get on stage a great deal. Okay? He has Vesta, Pluto, and Mars rising. Right? Those are the planets in the first house. This combination, right? Mars and Pluto together tends to supercharge the Mars because, Pluto is all about like the deep power, the power of genetics, the power of, the small. Conjunct the Mars tends to make it very, very strong. When you add Vesta to it, you know what it does? It heats it up. It brings the fire up to it. It gives people like this tremendous physical energy at the rising, which is where Mars wants to be in the first place. Mars loves being at the rising. Its two favorite houses. It's the first house at the rising and the 8th house. That's its martial houses. So it gives him tremendous energy. This is a guy who, when he arrives in any situation, he's going to have the energy to address it. But you put him on stage, Leo, let him shine. He's just going to love it. Now, like I said, it's a very intellectual position because he has that strong third house, the composer, but he also has Mercury in Virgo. Mercury is in a rulership position. It's an introvert kind of position, but it's a powerful social position. It's not introvert in terms of it's responsive. Gemini is the dynamic position for Mercury. Virgo is the responsive. It responds to the world around it. And he has Venus in Virgo as well. In the second house, Venus in her own house in a feminine sign. One thing you do find with a lot of these musicians is strong Virgo. Know why? They're perfectionistic. You find Venus in Virgo because they're perfectionistic about the arts. That's a good thing for a musician, don't you think? Because you're going to have to go over the same song how many times before you get it right? God knows how many. And then you're going to have to play the song how many times because everyone's going to want the best songs when they go to the concert. Interestingly, he has Uranus in the 12th house. Uranus shows up a lot in famous people, okay? In his case, his Uranus is square his Neptune and his Sun. It's interesting. It's kind of a challenging thing. But it's also square by sign with his Jupiter. He's part of that generation that had a big T-square. Jupiter was opposite the Sun, right? So you had Jupiter retrograde, and then it was both are squared that Uranus. This was a generation born in the early 50s that had a lot of energy and a real desire to accomplish things. What's interesting is he's part of the older generations of musicians that most of his chart is below the horizon. He has a deep inner life. He doesn't spend his life on social media. There was no social media when he was starting up. He lives his life inside, and then he goes out into the world. Jupiter in the 9th house, and he has the midheaven there. Search for knowledge is very important to him, the midheaven in the 9th house. He goes out there and performs. Jupiter in Aries as the personality, as Sting, right? And then he has Uranus in the 12th house. So Uranus in the house of the studio, technology, and Uranus is conjunct the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. There's a lot of astrologers born right around him because of that Sirian connection. So his chart is so different from someone like a Bruno Mars, who so much of his chart is up in the sky. Our younger musicians where so much of their chart is above the horizon. So much of his personality is really hidden from view, but it comes out through the Jupiter in the 9th house, Jupiter in its own house, See, he has a bunch of things here that are very powerful by position. Mars in its own house, the first house, right? Venus in her own house, Jupiter in his own house. Even though he's got not that many planets in a strong rulership, Saturn in exaltation, Mercury in rulership, that's pretty much it. But they're strong by their position. So that's a very, very interesting chart. Sting, Gordon Sumner, a different generation from the young artist that we're seeing today, but still with great endurance. He has great endurance. So until next time, remember you can come find us at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. We do our portraits on Tuesdays. We do our forecast on Fridays. When you go to the site, please subscribe. It's a big help to us. And you can also go to planetarycalendar.com where you can find the planetary calendar and our books and various other interesting videos. So until next time, be well.